DraftSociety.com presents a Premier League Draft Fantasy Podcast. Welcome to the Key Pass Collective, your exclusive source for the information, analysis, and advice you need to dominate your fantasy leagues. Come on in. We've been expecting you.
What is up, draft heads? The first podcast of the 22-23 Premier League fantasy football season. We are back as if we took any time off whatsoever, but we're back to potting. So we'll hopefully try to get back at you pretty regularly from now on, although it may be a little bit less regular than it is in the normal season. But first one of the season here today. And we are going to be covering a plethora of listener questions. We'll get to those in just a minute, but first let me remind you, the Key Pass Collective is the audio companion to the DraftSociety.com. So during the season, the Draft Society is going to be your go-to spot for game week prep, stats, rankings, advice, and even more benefits if you want to join the inner circle. That includes weekly player projections, trade advice that is confidential, ghost point tracker, set piece taker tracker, fixture difficulty tracker, so much more for a nominal fee. But we'll talk to you also about the Ultimate Pass, which is probably your best deal coming up here in just a second. I'll tell you more about that. But for preseason, the moment that we are currently in, preparing for drafts, getting ourselves ready to dominate, we have a draft kit that's going to be the biggest that this game has ever seen. We've got rankings coming out on the 14th, team previews that are dropping every single day, predicted 11s, which will be coming out in just a week or two, cheat sheets, super in-depth analysis articles, fixture difficulty trackers, player projections, so much more. So much more. And everything drops daily. There's various different articles that are dropping daily. And if something is listed on the draft kit but is not live yet in terms of like there's no link, then it means that it's going to be dropping here shortly in the next coming day, week, etc., somewhere in there before your draft. It is $15 for full access to the draft kit if you want to check that out. Otherwise, as I mentioned, you can get the Ultimate Pass, $60, entire draft kit, plus the entire season of the Inner Circle. So that is our pitch. We really do think it's worth it. And we've had a lot of people who telling us, basically that we've helped them legit win leagues, win money, etc. So check it out. We would love it if you would support this independent fantasy football site. Okay, let's welcome in the gents. We've got a few of them here today that are joining us to talk about some listener questions. So what I would love for them to do is say, hey, what's up? And then guys, tell us something that you've been working on for the draft kit that you're excited about. Tell us something that you're jazzed about and that you want to kind of let people know is either coming or is already released. Ryan, let's start with you.
Well.
Hello.
Good to be back,
Yeah.
especially the full gang. I think it's been years, if I'm not mistaken, since we've had the Fantastic Four back. So, yeah, I'm pretty hyped about that. Well, we never really stopped this summer. So we've got, as you mentioned, a ton of stuff coming out. I think what I'm been pretty hyped about is an article that Jeannie and I did about your draft position, and we kind of mapped out the entire first round, which had some good nuggets about each player and kind of where they should go in that pivotal first round. So that's already out, and then just one more that I'm excited about is something I teamed up with newcomer Robbie on. It's analyzing the effects of European football on fantasy assets. So Robbie did some great statistical analysis and a deep dive over the last few years on what happens when a team starts playing European football and how that's kind of going to impact how you draft those players and evaluate those players. So yeah, that should be coming out. I want to say tomorrow. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
Love that, man. You've been writing your ass off. You've really been doing. You and Jeannie especially have been writing so much. It's crazy.
Yeah, I wanted to get all of it done because it's going to be a pretty crazy next couple of weeks for work. But yeah, we had some great ideas. Everybody's just been churning out some fantastic stuff. So yeah, excited about it all.
Okay, last but not least, Tottiandor back with us. Toddy, what have you been working on? What are you excited about going into this season and the draft kit?
So
there he is.
Yeah, unlike you guys, I've been slacking off a bit. Work-wise on the Draft Society, but I've done my family holiday, and we have officially survived the launch of the summer season in the pool. So
nice.
Today was actually my first day back at work, so I'm back with a load of articles coming up. I did already do the third or even I should say fourth iteration of our fab pack of articles. We had the first one, which is the general overview, the second one, which is all the different strategies that you could do. We had one from our guest writer Didi about Fab Wars during the January transfer window, and it all culminated into Fab 3.0, which has come out, and it's an analysis of myself or my team and Danny Knowles' team in the Community League. Both of us have achieved Fab Monopoly last season, and it's a little real life analysis on how we did, what were the best parts, the worst parts, and how we ended up finishing. So it's a real sort of rounds out the pack of Fab articles. As for what I'm personally most excited about in the draft kit, I think I haven't, as much as I've not written, I haven't read much yet from our own draft kit. I may need to buy an Ultimate Pass to be motivated to start getting my read on. But I think I'm most excited about our biggest new addition for the year, which is dalliance with auction, and Gavin, one of our other newcomers, has taken the lead on that. Who has some great experience with auction leagues, and I did read those articles already and loved them. And as much as I enjoy a good snake draft, I do believe that auction is the future.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, it's just like in terms of the general excitement, in terms of like adrenaline, pulse pounding, drafting. I think it's the way to go, and there's a lot of strategy involved too. It's really interesting. So yeah, listeners, if you've never heard of even an auction draft or done one, read Gavin's stuff on that, because it's really interesting, and it's an interesting, potentially, it's avenue to think about when it comes to actually drafting for your league, because if you can get the managers in your league to buy into it, that's fun, guaranteed.
Exactly, guaranteed. And it is probably the right time to plug our auction mock. I think Gavin is still looking for a few people for this Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Please follow or look at our Twitter page. We retweeted Gavin's invite to join this auction mock. We have a lot of first timers. We have some veterans. It's just going to be a bit of fun on a Sunday morning. So yeah, join up.
I love it. Yeah, that'd be great. Check that out. Okay, beautiful. Well, welcome in, gents. It's been a long time, but it feels like it's only been a blink of an eye. Hopefully you're rested up, because we got a bunch of questions today. So let's jump into it. Again, listener questions ahead of the 22-23 drafts. Thank you to everybody who sent in questions. We are going to try to get through as many as we possibly can. We'll try to quick fire most of them, but certainly, if we need to jump into something and hash it out, then let's do it, boys. All right, first one. Ben Garside at Ben Chickens, our friend. He's been a supporter of us since day one at the Draft Society. Both, just like pat on the back and also there for us if we needed anybody financially. I mean, he's just been there for us, as much as anybody possibly could, with the exception of a couple of names I won't say. But Ben is top class. But I think in this case, Ryan, he's having a bit of a go at you.
I don't like the tone or the content of this question.
Name three teams that Wolves will finish above.
Well, I'll double that. I'm confident of them finishing above at least 6 teams. Brentford, Forest, Fulham, Bournemouth, Southampton, Everton, and Leeds.
Okay.
Now, I, of course, also have concerns about this Wolves squad and the lack of transfer activity to freshen up a squad that certainly needs freshening up. But they still have enough talent, and I think Lodge has it in him to be a good Premier League manager, and he has a year under his belt. So I think they'll improve this season. But yeah, they certainly need to make some signings pretty quickly. And the news of the owners, Fosun, the Chinese conglomerate, having some financial issues is certainly not reason to be optimistic. But yeah, I think they'll crack on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's just him having to go at you, clearly. But here's your actual question from Draftopia. At PL Draftopia has been doing some really good work. Check out Draftopia. Been responding to a lot of questions, been posing questions of his own, been posting a lot of really insightful stuff. So check out Draftopia. Kind of new to the draft game in terms of posting stuff, but he's getting some good stuff out there on Twitter. So check him out. He says, is Adama Traore back at Wolves, and does he stay? Could he be a steal in drafts?
Well, first he's back at Wolves. I've seen video of him sulking at training, or sulking as he parks his car and comes into training. But then they've put out some subsequent videos of him laughing and playing basketball and having a gay old time at the training facility. But suffice it to say, he is back. I don't see him staying. It's the last year of his contract. As we all know, he left on loan to Barcelona, where he grew up last season. They had a buy option. They chose not to exercise it, whether it's because they don't fancy him or they don't have the money. Probably a combination of both. Either way, he came back to Wolves, and he's only got 1 year left on his contract. So I assume that both parties feel the same as they did in January, and there will be a divorce this summer. I hope that he stays in the Prem. If that's the case, he will be a steal in drafts because of all the uncertainty. So if the status quo continues and there hasn't been any news prior to my draft, and there's no definitive developments that put him overseas, and I just don't see where he would go overseas. I mean, the Barcelona link made sense, but that's obviously off the table.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the Prem. The Prem knows him, so I could see him going to an Everton, or I would say Leeds before, but because obviously Rafinha is probably going to be leaving, but they just signed Sinistera, so I don't know where he'll end up. But I mean, the upside is obviously there. So high risk, high reward. Status quo continues. I'll probably look to take a punt on him after the 8th round or so. It's going to be very interesting to see where he goes and what people's risk appetite is regarding Adama. But I think that's where you start to get a bit of value there.
And who just forgets about him completely? I feel like he's going to be one of those guys where like somebody takes him in the 10th and then somebody else is like chatting or something, or if you guys are doing a Zoom draft or whatever it is, they're going to be like, oh, I totally forgot he was there, Yeah, exactly.
I think for the most part, that's probably going to be the case because he's going to be very low on ADPs and total fantasy points. So he's not going to be on your draft board. So out of sight, out of mind.
Have you heard maybe some word about his Spurs link hotting up that was there in January? Because that would
I
be
haven't
interesting.
seen a peep about
Me
that.
neither. Me neither. Just that would be an interesting venue for him.
Yeah, let's see if that's. I mean, Forest are. It looks like they're going to get Nico Williams, and so in the dominoes of that, I would assume that Spence is going to be leaving Forest to go to Spurs. In which case, if Conte was looking to play him at right wing back, there really wouldn't be any spots for him if they have Doherty, Royale, and Spence. So I think that would close the door on the Spurs option. Thank God, because I couldn't fathom that happening.
Yeah, that's true. Although, I mean, the window is closing on anyone signing him, I think, and
he'll be cheap.
Yeah,
he'll be cheap, but he'll face the same issues that he's faced at Barcelona and Wolves. Like he hasn't improved in the issues that, I mean, we love him as a Fantrax player, but otherwise he seems to be good for 8 or 9 games and then loses the confidence of every manager that he has.
Yeah.
So
quality crosses, attacking returns,
exactly.
Yeah.
So unless he's found the goal during the off season, I don't see how or why anyone would gamble on him. Essentially, you're losing a spot on your attacking part of your team to a player who is almost guaranteed not to score.
I mean, even without that goal threat, I mean, it was only 2 seasons ago that he was propelling Wolves to European football. I mean, he still has it in him to be a great squad player, if nothing else. So
yeah,
we'll
I mean, there are places that I enjoy watching him, and probably he's one of those guys who needs some confidence from the manager, and he'll thrive, which he didn't have from Lage after those initial 5-6 games. So it's going to be interesting. Just circling back, I'm unfortunately closer to Ben's assessment of Wolves. With all,
nobody wants to hear it.
with all what is happening on the no transfers front, with Fabio Silva reportedly leaving, it does look like, to me at least, that the Jorge Mendes steps in to the big leagues has succeeded, and he does not need Wolves anymore, and he is going on to pastures new.
That's the best thing that could happen to the club.
Yeah, that's true.
Trying to flog Cristiano Ronaldo and Chelsea. He is, but you can't deny that most of their quick success since their acquisition by the Chinese was due to the ability of Jorge Mendes to just get the most exciting Portuguese players to play for either a championship or a newly promoted team, and those 2 seasons when he did that, Wolves were flying, and it's been petering out ever since. As a club, I agree with you that that the lessening impact of Jorge Mendes is better for the club in the long run, but as looking at fantasy assets, or looking at a club and its ability to stay in the Premier League, I think it's worse if there's no Jorge Mendes, or less Jorge Mendes.
It's interesting. Well, I think we're all just kind of hoping for anything, just to see anything from them, hopefully. But yeah, there you go, Ben. Whether that was cheek or not, you got the answer. So let's move on. So we've got answers from Genie, which is nice. So for any questions that we were trying to get Genie's thoughts on, I'll just kind of give you his thoughts so we can still include him. If for no other reason than having like a seance, trying to like channel Genie who's already gone. But I'll give you his answer, and then if we want to chat anything from there, then we can go for it. So this is from TJ Laurent at Laurent402. He said, seen quite a bit on round 1. Seems a consensus is forming. How about round 2? And I would direct people to, Ryan, like you mentioned, your article with Genie on draft pick slot. And you guys talk through basically every single pick in round 1, the pros, the cons, etc. So round 1 really is quite covered. But he's right. Round 2 hasn't really been talked about all that much. So here's what Genie says. Round 2 is a hosh-posh of mids and tier 2 forwards. I think for the most part, all of these should go in round 2. He's got Robertson, ASM, JWP, Nunez, Kulusevski, Bowen, Mount, Jesus, Sterling, Foden, Eriksson, James and or Chilwell, Rafinha, and Tony. He says, I think 12 of those go in every second round this season. So we've done a couple mocks. I'm trying to hold off to do more until it's going to actually be more indicative of what it's going to be like. But we've done a couple mocks. We've talked through draft positioning quite a bit together. So what are we thinking about round 2?
I think Genie's certainly onto something here. I mean, most of those guys I've seen go round 2. Who I think has the possibility of slipping to round 3, I think would be Eriksson and Tony. For the same reason, Eriksson moving to United kind of not kills, but obviously lessens Eriksson's value. And then because he doesn't have Eriksson feeding him the ball anymore, Tony slips a bit. Chile usually stays until the 3rd round, probably because of the injury concerns. But yeah, I think everybody else probably goes in round 2, and I think the Sterling to Chelsea news probably bumps him up a bit. And then also, I guess Kulusevski, because of the Richarlison transfer to Spurs, might bump him out of round 2 as well.
Yeah, there's some in here that he doesn't mention that I think have a chance of going in round 2. When you look at guys like potentially Grealish, especially with Sterling leaving. I know that you're not excited about him, Ryan, but even potentially somebody like Mahrez, now that there's less competition there. I know the Genie really buys into that narrative. I, of course, rostered Mahrez last year, so I'm not going anywhere near him in the 2nd round. But that's that once bitten, twice shy thing, and I think that's the same with you and Grealish, right?
I actually think Grealish is probably value this draft, but I think at the latter part of round 2, I've seen him go early round 2, and I think that's too early for him. But yeah, end of round 2, early round 3, I think that's great value for him. But no, it's the Foden that I have really bad memories about.
Got you. Okay.
And I don't want any part of him, so I'm happy to pass that to somebody else.
All right, nice. Toddy, any thoughts on 2nd round, or shall we move?
Yeah, just minimal. I think this time around ADP is still trying to find itself. Obviously, our good friend, whatever his handle is, Chris, is doing the Lord's work with about 2 mocks a day. Which is influencing ADP a lot, but yeah, I feel that the big names will be creeping into the 2nd round, and the likes of Rafinha, who has question marks around him staying in the league, Bowen, who has had this amazing season and will be questioned whether he can replicate it, will start falling, and the more exciting and more household names like Mahrez and Grealish and Cristiano Ronaldo, if he stays in the league, will start creeping into round 2, as well as Sterling if he moves. I think we'll be discussing this a bit later, but Gabriel Jesus, I think, will creep into the end of round 2 for sure, especially with the forward situation there.
Cool. All right, let's move. We've got a question in from Sat at mindnumb_professor or prof. This one I believe is directed at you, Toddy. How do I know? I guess I don't, but he says, "Hi guys, how are you all doing? How's Hungary, my friend?"
Well,
I think I can take that one.
Go ahead, Ryan. I think you have a better understanding of how
I can talk about 2014 Hungary, like it's my job, but I think you probably have a better update.
I mean, if you're looking at Hungary to go on holiday in, it's this time is the time to go because the inflation is Germany between the two world wars-esque, I would say. So not so good if you live here. Much better if you're traveling here. So come spend your money in Hungary. Enjoy the spas. Enjoy the beautiful women. Enjoy what Hungary has to offer. Otherwise, spare thoughts for us.
Yes. I mean, unfortunately, I feel very similar right now in the U.S., so it's fine. Yes. Anyway, that's not your real question. Well, I mean, it is a real question, but let's give you a fantasy question as well. So our good old friend, Raw Sparkly, Will.
Best handle ever.
God, I love it.
I'm so excited to be in a league with him this year, too. I'm just over the moon. Anyway, he's asking, how far does Mahrez jump up the rankings with Sterling's likely departure? And we can change that to just Sterling's departure now. Foden too, of course. Interested to hear general thoughts on the wing positions in context of Sterling's move. We kind of just talked about this, but let's jump in a little bit deeper.
Yeah, so obviously it looks like, I don't think it's been confirmed, but it looks like Sterling has left or leaving, which and so is Jesus, who has been playing on the right for City this past season when he played, which obviously means more time for Grealish, Foden, and Mahrez. One would think, but I think Silva has expressed his desire to move back into his original position on the wing. Foden, as much as he thrived, not so much for fantasy. I think Ryan can attest to that. But for in real life, in the false nine position, he would like to move to one of the wing spots. So, in effect, with Haaland probably taking most of the starts at number 9, I'm not sure that there is actually that much of a opportunity for these guys to improve on their 21-22. As for Mahrez, I think he's always good for 22-23 starts, not more, and I wouldn't expect more, even with Sterling and Jesus leaving, because it's just how Pep uses his wingers. Yeah. Grealish is a different territory, and I'm sure that we will have our civil discussions about this with Ryan, but I do feel that that obviously he needed that one season to get to grips with the wing position at City, and I've read the Inner Geek Luke's article about four players we shouldn't be sleeping on, and Grealish features heavily there, based on this argument that he needed that 1 year to get to grips with the system, and also the fact that his underlying numbers were actually quite good, even though his production wasn't that good this past season. I do think that his off-field antics and his general vibe, if that doesn't change, I think he will clash with Pep. If you look at these players on both his iconic Barca team and his current City team, they are, besides being the best players in the world, or some of the best players in the world, they have this off-field trait in common, that they do not cause a lot of kerfuffle, and I think that's something that Pep is looking for with these players. Obviously, talent overrides that, but we've seen him bench Foden and Grealish after their night out partying. We've seen him coming out publicly and throwing them a bit under the bus. So I will look out for that, and how that relationship between manager and player develops. As for Jack Grealish, the others, I think you just draft them, knowing their true value. And as for Mahrez, Joe, I do think that I've been talking to you daily for 3 years now.
Yeah.
And I do think that you shouldn't draft Man City players. You're just too impatient for Man City players.
You're right.
And we've seen that Mahrez almost replicated his previous season, where he got into the top 10 for overall scores with 21 starts, and I think he is good for that. He is a wins above replacement monster. He will get you 30-40 pointer games, which will win you weeks, but he will have his 8-week stretch where he doesn't even come off the bench.
I mean, okay, and I'm impatient. I'm impatient because I don't want a player who's not going to play for 8 weeks straight.
Yeah, because
what's your problem, man?
It's because he will end up being a top 20 player for overall scores.
Granted, you're going to lose those 8 weeks, but for the others, you're going to be right.
And that's actually, if you look at my season, that's exactly what happened. So he started. Okay, so if you look at,
he's a luxury player,
right? If you look at this, like the time between, let's say December, the start of December, and like February, March, he started maybe 5 games in that stretch, and the ones that some of them he did start, but then he got kind of subbed off after 70, after 80, whatever it was. And yeah, there were games in there where he scored 22, 26, 39, but then there were other games where he just either didn't play, scored you 1.5, scored you 0.5, and I'm over it. I'm okay if I don't have him on any teams this year.
I'm just looking at the number of starts for all of these City assets, and it's remarkably similar. Foden 24, KDB 25. I think it was Sterling that was like 23. Grealish had 22. I mean, all of them except for Bernardo Silva 33 is right in that mid 20 range. Wild.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. No, you're probably right about me, Toddy. It's fine.
They're not. It's not for everyone. I
You're
agree.
right.
I've done both.
It's definitely not for everyone.
Well, let's talk about one of these former Man City players, Sterling. Fantrax Iceland is asking, and I'll throw this one to you, Ryan. Is his value going up or down with this move to Chelsea? And word has it that personal terms have been agreed. So I think we're talking about this like it basically is a done deal. Although I know it's not been, he's not posed with the kit yet.
Yeah, it's looking like this is already a done deal, as you mentioned. I think it's a tricky one because I think his production goes down. So like his points per start, which was absurd, like 14 last season. I mean, I think that goes down, obviously, but he's going to get more than 23 starts because he'll be the main man on that left wing at Chelsea, especially coming on these level of wages. Despite the Tuchel rotation, I think he'll still start probably 30 games, maybe, which is a step up from his 20 to 23 for City. So I think his explosiveness will be a little less because obviously Chelsea aren't a better or worse attacking team than City, but he'll start more, so it'll offset. And so I think because of all that, he'll get a little bit of a bump in terms of his production over the course of the season. So I think he goes from probably round 3 staying with City, given the uncertainty, to somewhere in round 2.
Yeah, especially given our forward situation that Toddy alluded to, which I think there is a question about that later, so we won't go into it too much. But Toddy, anything on Sterling for you? I think you kind of expressed your ideas a little bit on him already. You weren't expecting a whole lot extra.
Yeah, I think Ryan's right about the community valuation. I'm still on the fence because as much as he will get more starts. Well, it's not fully obvious, but we all kind of have a consensus on him getting more starts at Chelsea than at City. It is changing up a team that has been the top scorer for goals in the past couple of seasons to a team that is scoring 6 and 7 in 3 games and then winning 1-0 in 25 games.
Yeah.
So unless he gets more prolific and more ruthless, I don't. There is an argument that more starts just means more disappointment.
This goes for about 8 per start last season, which is not bad, but not Adama-like, or not enough to offset just a complete lack of goals, which potentially could happen at Chelsea. But I think it'll be somewhere in the middle.
Exactly. It will depend on how or who Chelsea get in, because if I haven't seen much about this, but if they get a goal scorer, obviously there's talk of Cristiano, but if they get a goal scorer and they're not relying on Werner, Havertz, and Sterling to actually get the actual ball in the actual net, then I'm kind of more excited about Sterling's role on the team and what he can achieve. But then I'm bumping him down because of too many players being tasked with getting the chances in. So I'm kind of talking myself into being lower on Sterling than anyone else, or so.
Okay.
So yeah, I would go for him in the third, but as Ryan says, I think he will grow into a second round pick, and I will probably pass on him. If that
prospect of him overlapping with Chile on that left side, if he's fit and firing, is a mouth-watering one. But
Yeah.
Chelsea's so hit or miss. Who knows?
I was just going to do a little exercise quick. What if we predict end of season fantasy point totals for Jesus, Sterling, Mahrez, and Foden?
Jesus, Sterling, Mahrez, and Foden.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be in that order. Because I think Jesus will start the most games out of all of them.
Okay. Who would you most want on your team?
Close between Jesus and Sterling. I'd, for obvious reasons, lean towards Jesus, but I think if you're looking at it unbiased, you're probably, man, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Just because Jesus, I mean, it's risk. Do you want to go with the guy that's absolutely going to start week in, week out in Jesus, or do you want to take a little bit more of a gamble with more upside, I would say, with Sterling? So they're neck and neck for me.
I'll go a different route, and I'll say the breakout season that we've all been talking about for Foden has come, and I think it will be
Yes.
it will be Foden who scores the highest out of those, with Jesus second, and Sterling and Mahrez close, tied on third. Wager. So you're saying that Jesus will score more overall points than Foden?
Yeah, 100%.
I'll take that.
All right, I'll add it to the list. Got a pretty good list going.
Loser buys dinner at Draftapalooza.
I like that.
All right.
Or buys the other person around or whatever.
Whole meal of food.
I'll do Bifanas.
We're going back. We're going back to Lisbon. All right, perfect. I'm in.
I'll take that €3.50. Thanks.
Okay, Toddy. One thing I forgot to mention on the Sterling the Mahrez conversation. I don't want to belabor this, I promise. But here was the thing. As I was looking at those numbers, I was like, damn, these numbers are pretty good, to be honest, right? And in the games where he starts, it's like, obviously, yeah, he's winning you the week. Why would you not start him? What we don't remember always when talking about City assets is the fact that they often play Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, right? Sometimes even Monday, but oftentimes it's those marquee games on Sunday that they play because of Champions League. And what happens at that point? You don't know if they're starting. And so you play it safe a lot of times, right? Especially if your matchup is close, and you start somebody who you think is going to get a reasonable return. But it's not always 20, it's not always 30, 40 like Mahrez is going to get you. But then again, you don't know if he's going to start Sunday night. And I can't tell you the number of times that I ran into that situation. He did start, and then it was, well, shit. So that's just another consideration I wanted to throw out there when you're talking about City players, because it's going to happen again. And so if you are comfortable with that,
you got to waste a roster spot to resolve it.
Right. Yeah, so you almost need to have cover in that same match.
And still get lucky with the lineup.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, anyway, this is one more thing I want to throw in there, because that was truly the reason I think I was so infuriated, was the fact that, like, sometimes he would end up playing, but it was Sunday evening, and I was like, well, no, it doesn't do me any good now. I already started Joe Linton, and he got me like 0.5.
I mean,
but
that's
okay. A couple times.
He got you 10.
Usually, he got me
week.
7 to 10 pretty consistently.
I get you, but that's the way you need to put together your roster. So if you're picking up Mahrez in round 2 or 3, then either you're going full on City and you've already selected KDB and you're okay playing either one of them, or you're going with solid options and building a team that survives a Mahrez benching in turn for a Mahrez 40-pointer.
That's really interesting. I do have the third pick in one of my leagues, and if it goes Salah and then Son, obviously I'm taking KDB. You make a good point to potentially take another City player in like that third round.
I like Mahrez in the third round, despite all of what we've said. That's when he becomes real value. It was last season when he was like late round 1, early round 2, where it's just like, nah, not worth it. But round 3 with that lineup, I like it.
Can anyone guess? And I'm going to plug our friends at Overthink Football, who have come up with a new metric, and I actually really love this metric, and it's the quality starts metric. And essentially is a quality start is the percent of games where a player achieved a start where a player's expected fantasy points score fell within the 50th or above percentile for players from that position group.
Okay.
So essentially has done better than half of the same position group on any given game week. Guess the percentage of quality starts from one Riyad Mahrez.
You're going to tell me
70.
Like, yeah.
It is 86%. 86%.
Wow.
Just
22 starts.
To compare,
yeah.
Kevin De Bruyne's quality start percentage is 96%.
Good.
He had one off
Lord.
game.
Yes, 96%. Christian Eriksen 90. Zinchenko and Tsimikas also 90.
I hope Zinchenko gets a move.
And then Foden, Grealish, Mahrez, Cancelo on 87 and 86 and 83 respectively.
Damn.
Essentially, you want to start them when they start. And
what did Son do?
I will tell you what Son's...
Got to scroll away.
It'd be interesting
exactly
to
what you want to hear, Ryan.
Son and Salah. Yeah. He's starting too much. That's his problem.
Yeah, he's starting a lot. We have the Bukayo Saka at 79.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean that's
the computer at 78.
No way. I cannot believe it.
Yeah, the computer's there.
There's a glitch.
I do love the computer. I can't dislike the guy, but I got burned. Safe to say.
Salah at 73 and Son at 69.
All right. That's not bad for never having a rest.
That said, Son's quality starts fall into the Q75 and Q90 category, which means that he's scored better than 90 or 75% of the same position group, whereas Mahrez and Grealish are more towards Q50.
All right. Nice. Let's move it. All right. So Brandon, Brisbane Brando, he is, let's see. He is asking which new signing will score the most points this season. Well, just who will score the most points. We've got Nunez, Haaland, Jesus, and Richarlison. Anyone else I've missed? He also put an LOL after Richarlison that I deleted. But just wanted to get your honest thoughts. So what do we think about this?
Man, I guess it falls on me to keep shilling for Jesus. That is a really, really good question. I think it will. Again, I think it's going to come down to number of starts, and Jesus is just going to start more than any of those players. So I back him, and then Haaland, and then who else is it? Nunez and Richarlison.
Richarlison.
Yeah, I think it'll be Jesus, Haaland, Nunez, Richarlison. But I think Haaland will have better WAR and points per start. But again, the number of starts will give Jesus probably the most fantasy points overall.
Where do you think Jesus finishes overall?
Probably between probably around 15.
15. Yeah, I can get on board with that. It's not outrageous.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Nah. I was just like, I was looking for if I were to add up Eddie and Laka scores together, where that would.
Well, there's a reason why we got him.
There is, but he's not a number 9, and I think we can jump ahead at the Jesus question and then finish up the Jesus conversations.
Sure.
I'll just quickly find this because I know because I was given this question in the rundown. Where is it? Sorry. We had a question is just on Jesus. From Carol at Cade. General opinion on Gabby J. And I did say that I think he's a bit overhyped because Arsenal have been looking for a number 9 for so long, and
2 years.
He does seem like since Lacazette forgot to score.
I mean, it's only been a couple years since Aubameyang banged in like 20 goals. I'd say Chelsea's been looking for number 9 for like 15 years.
Did Oba play as a number 9 though?
What's that?
Did Oba play as a number 9?
When he was banging in all the goals, and then they shunted him to the wing to bring in Lacazette. But yeah, that was his best time.
Yeah. So okay, maybe just 2 seasons, but I'm not seeing the amazing hold up play, poacher, finisher number 9 in Jesus that focal point might require. I do think that he's a good player, and I do think that he's gonna flourish in Arsenal. I just don't think that he's quickly gonna turn into a 20-goal striker.
I don't think he will either. I don't think serious, rational fans think he's going to be a 20-goal striker, but I think he's got it in his locker to be a 15-goal striker, especially if the rest of the team is humming, and I expect they'll crack on this season. So, yeah, I think he'll get enough goals to be a top 15 player at the end of the season. I think he'd be overhyped if he's going at like pick 14, which I think in some leagues he probably will. But end of round 2, early round 3, I think that's decent value for him.
Oh yeah, that's I give you that. That's decent value, but that's almost like, I don't know off the top of my head, and I'm sure that you know how many goals Eddie and Laka got, but I'm sure it's close to or around 10-15.
Yeah.
So wouldn't adding those up mean that kind of equates to how Jesus will score?
In terms of purely goals, sure. I think we're making the case for him as a fantasy asset, though, right? So I think there's some ghosting there that the other two don't really do. Although Eddie did sort of towards the end, but Abba could go missing for entire stretches.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I think he can get 15 goals. That's kind of my hope and expectation for him.
Yeah.
Because I mean, of course, it's a different kettle of fish playing with City and KDB and blah blah blah. But I think he got whatever 9 ghost points per start last season. So yeah, he's not as one dimensional as I would say Eddie certainly. But yeah, I think all of that considered, he'll be a great asset.
I wonder what the over under is, if you can get any of those like over under odds right now on Gabby J goals for the season.
I saw somebody on Twitter that put up, I think, like $1,000 saying that he was going to score under, I think, 13 goals.
13?
Yeah.
Under 13? No way.
Yeah, that's what the guy was. I think it'll be around 15, but barring injury, of course. But yeah, I'm sure in the betting markets you can probably find something like that.
That'd be tough. 15 would make me think. 13, I would take it.
I'd take it too.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. So this leads us kind of into discussing a little bit more.
Sorry, I just no, I was just checking because Fantrax have just updated to show projections as the default stat.
Oh, perfect! You gotta love Fantrax.
Yeah, tell us what Jesus is going to do.
Please.
Jesus is going to he's going to get 1 start, and in that 1 start, he's going to score 1 goal from 1 shot on target, which is great.
Clinical.
Even better is he's going to get 13 assists from 1 key pass.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
I mean that's the game you want him for.
That's money well
our Lord
spent.
and Savior.
That is money well spent.
On the flip side, Pepe, for the 1 game that he's projected to start, he's scoring 9 goals and 12 assists. So I think he's still
not a bad haul.
the go-to guy if you're playing for that 1 game.
It's close.
So clearly the game started are off, but are the stats supposedly what they actually think it's going to be?
For full season?
I mean,
it has to be.
KDB is projected to start 28 games, score 13 goals, which is within the realm of possibility, with 39 assists. 39.
Yeah.
39.
Yeah. Wait, okay, who's the Golden Boot scorer?
He will only be bested by assist king with 42 projected assists, Chandon Baptiste.
No, absolutely. Yep. I almost took the words right out of your mouth. I was going to say it. You'll be happy to know, though, Ryan, that Eddie Nketiah will still score 14 goals. Also
Jesus, between the 2 of them, then.
Yep. Also assisting 10.
Hopefully over more than 1 game.
But I think
he's
the biggest
starting 27 games. So
yeah, 27. The biggest news to come out of these projections, I think, is your 4th leading goal scorer on the season will be one Alexander Mitrovic with 21 goals, and he'll add 19 assists to that tally.
Fulham staying up.
Yep.
Fulham winning the league.
I mean, not with Chandon Baptiste banging in goals every second minute. Or assists, rather.
Okay, well, this is our friendly reminder not to trust Fantrax projections. Anyway, all right. So let's move to was it Brando again? No, it was Cade. You were just mentioning Carol at Cade, Kade. was asking about the forward pool for this year, and something we've talked about quite a bit, just between TDS staff members. But what, as we get closer and as you've done more mocks, how are you guys feeling about this? Toddy, I guess I'll pass it to you since you kind of prepped a little bit on this.
Yeah. So I think obviously we have been active on Twitter, and the guys, except for me, have been releasing a lot of articles, and you get the picture that we are high on forwards going early. So I think there's a general consensus about coming out with the first 5 rounds with 2 starting forwards. I think that's kind of where we are at, and the premium and mid-range forwards. So the first 3 rounds are littered with forwards, meaning that there is a chance for you to do that. I do think that there is value in going against the grain on this, just by again being a bit more patient, a bit more sort of looking at how other managers in your league set up, because obviously people will start hoarding these premium-ish forwards, and it will result in a precipitous drop after like round 5. But if you are one of those guys who just drafts for value, then I think there's value in starting and getting comfortable with a 1 forward formation for the beginning of the season. I do think that by mid-September, all this forward hype will die down a bit, and we'll find out which 20 or 15 of the currently about 35 deep pool of premium-ish forwards will actually make the grade and actually be premium forwards.
Ryan, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I've written about this, but I think just like the midfield madness of last season was a bit overblown. I think the forward frenzy this season is also probably played up a bit too much. It certainly is there as you get past the 4th or 5th round, but I don't think you have to feel pressured to take a forward in both the first or the second. If a great midfielder or defender falls to you in 1 and 2, I think you can still take them and get some quality forwards in 3 and 4. You can still get a Watkins, that type of level that has the value of potentially being a 15 goal scorer, but having dropped a couple rounds in people's evaluations. So I think it's there, but it's probably not as overblown, I think, as people are making it.
Yeah, it sounds like both of you are kind of saying don't reach, like don't get to a point where it's clear that like quality forwards have been exhausted and you're freaking out. Take what's available to you and take the best player you can.
Exactly. I think Ryan has almost inadvertently made a point on our previous conversation. We are thinking, and our thoughts are aligned on Jesus being close to a 15 goal forward for the next season, and he just said that you can get Watkins in round 4 as a potential 15 goal forward. So
3.
Round 3? Yeah. Okay.
Plus Jesus does a bit more, but
yeah, exactly. You'll I think you'll see around 10 position gap between their ADPs, I would say, between Watkins and Jesus. And I don't think that the final overall score will be that much. So essentially, you can get Zaha at the end of third, even maybe the fourth.
Yeah, I've seen him go mostly in the fourth. Yeah, that's the kind of the level of forward that I was kind of referring to, and when I said you don't have to get him in 1-2, you can get those. I mean, if you go mid defender or mid 1-2, and then you're coming out of the fourth round with Watkins and Zaha, I think you're pretty well stocked forward wise.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's say you went Cancelo and then you went, I don't know,
JWP.
Yeah, sure, great. Oh, that's mouthwatering. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you went Cancelo, JWP, and then you go Jota or Jesus, and then maybe that's a bit of a fall for Jesus, but definitely you can get Jota in round 3, or Mahrez, and then go for Zaha in 4.
Yeah. So there you go.
That's a decent, good enough draft.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. And I think, it's showing that it's, I would say, elite forwards. The pool is pretty shallow, but kind of those mid tier, those mid to upper tier, it's fairly deep. As long as, Toddy, like you said, don't find yourself stranded in like the 7th with one forward, because then you're looking at some real lottery tickets. You're grasping at straws there. So that's where you really need to start thinking about, unless you agree with Fantrax's projections on Mitrovic, in which case then you're fine. But yeah, we don't tend to think he's probably doing that this year. All right, Ryan, let's bring it over to you. We've got a question from Kaliyug Karna Ramnarayanan. He is asking, with the 5 sub rule coming in, which people have been talking about quite a bit. I know we actually have an article coming out on that as well. So, we could just direct people there, but let's briefly discuss at least. Should we go bold by starting a player from the bench more often? What impact will it have in the draft strategy? Should we go for the Man City bench earlier than usual?
Well, first off, I don't think it's going to be utilized or exploited as much as I think folks tend to think it will be. A lot of these managers like Klopp and Pep that have been asking for it a fair amount of time don't actually use the 3 subs that they're given. So I think it's just having the option of doing so. So one, I don't think it's going to happen as often as people think. And 2, I don't think I'll ever feel comfortable starting someone from the bench if I have other options. I think it's only kind of a desperation play if you get jammed up, and if you're flexible enough, you shouldn't be jammed up, but sometimes it happens. In which case you feel a little bit more comfortable and less desperate starting a Mahrez from the bench if you're stuck on that last Sunday game that we talked about. But for me, it doesn't really change draft day value for City benchers or any other bench players for that matter.
Okay. Anything to add, Toddy?
No, I think I agree with Ryan that that this 5 sub rule we'll just need to wait and see who starts using it or how it integrates into every manager's thinking. I'm not changing draft value for City benchers either.
Okay, cool. All right, well, we're back to Ben Chickens at Ben Chickens, Ben Garside. And this is on the back of a conversation that was had on Twitter. So Kate is also asking basically the same question in a different comment. And both were talking about the word upside, the idea of upside. And it was bandied about, online, the fact that, you should only draft players with upside X player is, quote, too safe. I know Genie was heavily involved in this conversation. I wish he could be here to explain his thinking on this. But basically, he was saying that like he's only really comfortable taking players that he at least perceives as having upside, and everybody sort of got confused as to what he meant by that. So I think what people are wondering is, like this idea that you take a certain player and he's not risky enough, right? Like he doesn't have enough quote unquote upside to potentially win you a week or whatever it is. But what does that say about guys like JWP who will get you 10, 12, 15 pretty consistently? So Genie says this, and then we can open it up to whatever you guys want to, at least add to it. He says, upside to me is a player that on his day can provide more value than you got him for. Someone who has it in their locker to drop 20 on a performance more often than not the one-off Conte 25-pointer. Okay, obviously, yes, we're aware of that. Guys like ASM on their day can provide top 5 player value. In the first round, most players offer upside, some more than others, and some come with risks. The Spurs forwards will face more rotation, but can offer massive numbers. KDB, Haaland have fitness issues, minutes issues, but on their day they have 1-1 value. So again, he's a proponent of drafting players who have more upside. But the question is, what does this nebulous term really even mean? And is it something we can quantify? Is it something that is overhyped? I don't know. So there's Genie's answer. What do you guys think about it? Cool. Moving right along. No.
I was going to let Toddy weigh in on that. I think it's different strokes for different folks. Upside means different things to different people. For me, I tend to agree with Genie. It just means like you're more likely to be able to have a big explosive game as opposed to the John McGinn 7 to 10 points every week. And I tend to think more about forwards as potential upside, given the fact that they can obviously score a few goals, which increases their upside. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about upside. But I think it ultimately depends on roster construction. You want ideally to have a handful of those solid guys that are going to get you the 7 to 10 every week, while you rotate between some guys that are able to get you that 20 or 30 pointer, but they're not going to do it every week. So I try to have a good variety of solidity and upside, quote unquote, in my squads.
Yeah. I think as although some people may have different understandings of the word, I think the sort of general understanding has to be a player who has the potential to surpass expectations, and provide more value in any given game week than one would expect that player to have. So obviously this all means the same thing, and a player with upside is a player who has that ability. In that sense, Conte 25-pointer means that Conte has upside, but it's limited in a sense that it's not every week that he has that potential.
Yeah. I'm looking at some guys here from about 35 to 55 in my rankings, and I'm just sort of like identifying what we mean when we talk about these kind of upside versus non-upside guys. So like if you look at guys like Tielemans, Harrison, McGinn, right? These are your guys who don't have as much upside, as much on their day. They could.
I mean, Harrison could.
Harrison,
I'd categorize Harrison as someone with upside, more so than McGinn or Tielemans.
I mean, maybe more. I don't know. Maybe more so than, I suppose, but barely for me. Anyway, okay, it's fine. So then we've got guys in that same range, like Richarlison, Harvey Barnes, Neto, Michael Olise, or Olise, however you want to say it. But these guys, to me, scream, potential rotation issues, potential all these question marks, but upside.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so there we go. I know we didn't necessarily. I don't know if we solve the Twitter conversation that was had and the disagreements that were sort of felt around that, but yeah, I think what Ryan said is you just have to go with your own valuation of players and what kind of risk you want to take on them and what kind of reward you're hoping to get out of them. This also goes back to the drafting for first or last article, doesn't it, Toddy?
It does, and
yeah,
and it does reiterate that that you need to get those players, get your Mahrezes who then will start the last match of the game week. Get your Zahas who will get 2 goals in one game and then 20 dispossessions in the next one, rather than getting your Ethan Pinnocks of the world.
Ah, interesting. That's unfortunate, though. I love Ethan Pinnock, but yeah, you're right. Okay, cool. I think we've sort of answered that. Let's move along. All right, Fundalski at Fundalda, longtime listener. How you doing, Fundalski? Hope your summer's going well. Specifically to you, Toddy. Another question asked directly to you. Where will you be drafting Stanislas?
It's a good question. I think I'm doing the Bournemouth preview, and unfortunately, my main man Junior has not had a good year last season due to being made of glass. But that said, I think if he is healthy during the preseason, his Premier League experience will be invaluable. So if I see him starting the preseason games, I will be getting him in after round 13. And if not, otherwise, I think he will continue to be one of the highest upside streamers for the whole season, because whenever you get him in the starting lineup, he will command set pieces, and he is a mean free kick taker, so has a potential to get on the score sheet as well.
Okay, nice. I don't know if he was asking that in jest or not, but I like that you answered it seriously. Like, no, he seriously still could have actual value.
How many starts did he have last year in the championship?
I want to say 7, but that might be a bit too
generous.
Too many. Sounds like a streamer.
Yeah, he's definitely a streamer. Not much more than that, unfortunately. He played in 7 matches.
He played in. He played in. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, he had appearances in 7 matches.
All right. Okay. Well.
He did get 2 assists in those 7 matches. 2 starts.
Like a fan tracks projection.
So, again, that might have been just poking fun, because people obviously know your love of old Junior Stan. But we had many people asking us questions about players from promoted teams. So Magnus Goodmanson at Magnus Dagger 27. What players from promoted teams do you see yourselves drafting? Carol at Cade also asked, he asked 13 questions, but that's okay. We love you. Possible value players on the promoted teams. although he admits this might be an article coming up, which it definitely is. And then we had Abdun on the Moon at Fantasy Trees asking, what round is the first player going to be drafted from the 3 promoted teams? So obviously people are curious about promoted players. Let's talk a little bit through them. I will also direct people to Draft Lad's Fantrax 22-23 incomers, stats, and callouts spreadsheet that's available to everybody. Whether you have the draft kit or not, you can get this. And basically, it's a sheet where he's tracking all of the rumored incoming players, and he is converting their points from whatever league they were in last year. He's converting them to what if those points and those goals and those assists and all of their stats, what if those were Fantrax default scoring numbers? So check that out. I can put that in the show notes as well for people who want to check that out. So definitely get over there because it's going to help you a lot when looking at players who are being promoted and also players who are incoming from other leagues. Anyway, long story short, let's talk promoted players. Does anybody want to start anywhere in particular?
I can start. I'm probably not going to draft any this season. And it's not because I don't have value in them. It's because I will flip through our fixture difficulty tracker that is already up on our draft kit site. And you can have a look at it with your draft kit or Ultimate Pass subscription. So for Fulham, we are starting with Liverpool and continuing with Wolves, Brentford, Arsenal, Brighton, and Spurs, which is the best out of the 3.
Oh, Lord.
For Forest, we are looking at Newcastle, West Ham, Everton, Spurs, City. And for Bournemouth, we are looking at Villa, City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Wolves.
Good Lord.
So I'm pretty certain that most of the guys you are interested in will, at some point during that run, become free agents.
Which is great. We can get them all in like week 6.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as I think you guys know, that's usually my tactic regarding promoted players. I rarely draft them just because a lot of times the gems that are unearthed are not the ones that we kind of think are going to be the ones going into the draft. So like Pablo Hernandez obviously wasn't the gem from Leeds that everybody thought they would be, and it ended up being Jack Harrison. So, long story short, it's a minefield, and nobody has any faith in him because they don't know him. So if they don't start out like a house on fire, and as Toddy rightly mentioned, nobody will with that type of schedule. Again, they're going to be on the wire, and they're going to reveal themselves slowly after getting out of that hell schedule. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to look to draft any. But to answer the one question about which round the first promoted player will go, I think it's probably around 7th round. That's Mitrovic territory from what I've seen. I think his ADP is around there. So if I had to guess, it's probably about round 7.
I feel like somebody takes him sooner than that.
Exactly. I think he will creep up on draft boards and he will be taken around 5-ish.
No.
Maybe. But I think most drafts will
average
will probably be around 7.
Yeah. Let's see. Round 5. What round 5? What draft picks are those? Like what numbers?
49 through 60.
Okay, so we're looking at players like
his ADP is 77. So yeah, that's around beginning of round 7.
Okay, but if he's going in round 5, he's in there with players like McGinn, Vardy, Calvert-Lewin, Perisic, Olise, Trossard, Damari Gray, Buendia potentially. I know there's a lot of players in there I would much rather have than him, for sure.
Yeah, not for me.
Anthony Gordon.
Mm.
Thiago's in there in that conversation.
2 crowns. Gordon.
Jamie Vardy. Did I mention him? Yeah. So anyway, that would be the range. If he does end up in like the 5th round, it would be amongst those players ish. And it all depends on what he does. If you look at Draft Lad's tracker, his stats from last year would put him at 18.3 fantasy points per 90 with 8.2 ghost points. But what have we learned with players coming up from the championship? You almost need to basically have those numbers. From most people, the Fantasy Football Scout did a really good scout cast on this, where they looked at all the numbers from the highly touted, especially forwards coming up, and they found that basically it's about half. You have to almost have their numbers from the year before, and they of course don't count ghost points or anything like that. But yeah, so that's essentially what you'd be looking at, because he's not scoring 44,000 goals again, 43.
Yeah, we have a direct comparison with Mitrovic because this has already happened in years previous. So, yeah, I'd expect at least half. Probably. What did he score? How many goals did he score in the championship? Is it like ridiculous? It's almost
43.
Like 43. Jesus Christ!
Insane. Yeah.
He's not going to score more than 15 tops. I would guess around 11.
11. Ooh. That's an interesting one. Huh. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, the other question is then, that these lads were asking is, are you interested in any of these guys? And it sounds like you guys aren't. I'm happy to take some late, maybe a couple late, if they fall.
What are you going to do with them? Not play them and keep them on your bench? I think these are the guys that will ultimately, the Milot Rashicas are the guys who will ultimately make you not pick up Conor Gallagher on game week 1.
Yeah, I can see that.
Good point. Although for every Rashica, you have a Kieran Dow. I will remind you of that.
You do.
Talk about upside.
It's so high. Yeah, no, I agree.
So I think in a sense, by taking like pronounced lottery tickets guys in the late rounds rather than guys like these promoted players who might come good in the long run. Yeah, Harry Wilson will get 7 or 8 assists. Mitrovic will get 10 goals.
Brennan Johnson.
Yeah, Brennan Johnson, Dom Solanke will get 9 goals, whatever. These guys are the ones that you pick up in round 12 or 13 and keep rostering for way too long when they underperform, because you know their value is coming in the long term, and you're waiting for that break that they are eventually going to get. Whereas if you pick Ross Barkley, or if you pick Gibbs White, or you pick another Traore, just to wrap it around to the first question, you know that is a throwaway position on your team, and you are essentially you are playing yourself into already having roster spots that you are open to letting go and picking up the surprise starters in game week 1 or game week 2 who have a chance to establish themselves in their respective teams. Whereas if you fill up your team with players that you need to wait on, or you believe have long-term value, then it restricts your movement in the early days of the season.
That makes a lot of sense. And for somebody like me who's not patient, I need
Exactly.
should probably just
And if you know that your team is filled with Ross Barkleys, then you can just chop and churn your 2 or 3 last spots.
Yeah, for sure.
And you'll pick up Conor Gallagher. He'll score you 20 points in the game week 1, and then in game week 3, when he's benched, you'll drop him. But you've had 2 good games.
And I will say this: even if you are a Mitrovic believer, which there will be plenty this season, you can probably wait until after game week 6 when they have that stretch. Liverpool, Wolves, which okay, fine. Brentford, okay, fine. But then Arsenal, Brighton, who are no slouches, and Tottenham. And you can probably put out an offer game week 7 and get him pretty cheap at that point.
Exactly.
I think Natty Ice would be the one exception for me. I think
I have a couple of exceptions.
Deal to Bournemouth, I think I'd have to take him in around 13 or so, just because, man, those aerials can withstand anything.
Natty Ice, Nico Williams is another one.
Yeah.
I would definitely take him.
Gibbs White.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbs White, if he's on one of these teams, sure. But I'm hoping he goes somewhere else. I like him at Palace, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay, cool. Let's try to get a couple more in. We are over our hour and a half, but that's whatever. We'll just try to do as much as we can here. All right. This is a new listener or first time or long time listener, first time question asker. SRX Consultancy /
Rolls of the tongue.
Yes. / Simon Rothstein at
business
Cy
account?
Rothstein. I think it's a business account. But Lord knows we're all at work on our computers doing fantasy football stuff. So,
No.
I mean, you can't blame Cy, can you? So Cy Rothstein, he says, which top tier players are must avoids either due to injury, rotation, threat to their place, or no Premier League experience? Ryan, you were assigned this question.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I hate must avoid. I think it's apt if it's must avoid this early in the draft. And it's also difficult because you usually have a handful of good players that are still recovering from like an ACL injury, thinking like James Justin and Pedro Neto last season, that I always advise people to avoid in the draft because you're just holding them for 6 months and they're burning a hole in your roster and they never come good. But there really aren't those types of players this season. I mean, Chile is fully recovered, but you can't tell until you actually see him game week 1, 2, 3 if he's fully recovered. But yeah, there's nobody I think due to injury that is a must avoid. But that's a big wind up into, I think Haaland and Nunez are probably going to go too early for my taste. Talk about no PL experience. Haaland has injury concerns coming out of the Bundesliga. We've seen the Bundesliga tax quite a bit. I mean, need I remind folks about Sancho? Of course, there are extenuating circumstances going into City, surrounded by that level of talent, yearning for a number 9. But I just don't think it's going to click as soon as people would like. So I don't like Haaland mid first round. Late first, early second. Now you're talking about that buzzword upside again. But yeah, going 5 or 6, not for me. Nunez, similar, but I think he has more rotation concerns with Jota. Plus, he had one good season at Benfica. I think he's going to be a player, but hitting the ground running like a Diaz, I just don't know. But either way, I don't think he's worth it at pick 10. Late round 2, early round 3. Yeah, I like the risk reward proposition there, but I think he's going to go too early. A couple other folks that I think are going too early. Well, first of all, Emile Smith-Rowe, I don't like drafting him whatsoever. Very streaky player, very randomly goal dependent. I don't think he's going to be a regular starter. So he's probably going too early for me. And then I have an article coming out about folks that are overvalued. So this is a nice preview for that. So
Nice.
Haaland, Nunez, Bruno Guimaraes, Kieran Trippier, ASM. I have a bad feeling about. I don't think Bilva and Bowen can replicate their form from last season. So I think they'll be a little overvalued. So it's just a handful of folks that I'm tending to avoid, but not must avoids because they're still going to be okay. I just don't think they're being valued as they should be.
Bad feeling about ASM.
Yeah, I just go in. I mean, very beginning of the second round, I just not for me.
Yeah. See, I guess you're right. I'm looking at my rankings. I have him at 19.
Yeah, I think I'll probably have him a little bit higher, but not too far off there. But I've seen him go in like pick 14, very early second round.
See, but the thing is, I have Bowen higher, and I know you're kind of skittish on him this year.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a feeling. I mean, that if you go just solely based off last season, I mean, he was the 7th highest scorer overall. I mean, it's crazy, but I just don't see him keeping it up.
Okay. Interesting. All right. What about Chilwell or St. Max? How do you like the two of them? Like who would you rather take sooner?
Ooh, man, that's a difficult one. Probably St. Max just.
Okay.
But I think Chili's a bit riskier just coming off of that injury, but I think he has the opportunity to, if he can stay fit for a full season, I think he can certainly eclipse ASM's point scores. It's just that injury concern that gives me a bit of pause, but they're fairly close for me.
God, talk about upside. Yeah, Chilwell. Holy shit.
Yeah, he had a 7-week stretch that he dreamed about.
Absolutely. Todd, anything to add on this particular question before we move on to probably our last one?
I'm good. I think just on this last point, the Chilwell point, I do think that that he will be hot and cold in his valuation as well. Like some people will forget that he exists because of his injury, but like there will be some people, and I think we can be some of those guys who will overvalue that 7-game stretch, and that is no way that's sustainable. Similar to what Kieran Trippier did in that 4-game stretch, there's no way that those are sustainable. Both are really good players, and I'd really like to have them on roster, but I will only be able to do that if I'm in a league where managers value them for their injuries rather than their amazing stretches, because I'm not taking Trippier in round 3, and I'm probably not taking Chilwell mid round 3 either. Maybe I've seen him go even earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Well, interesting. That's a great question, to be honest. And yeah, I think more will probably emerge as we get a little bit closer to draft day too, just as ADP start to solidify and some guys start to creep up to a level where we're definitely not comfortable with them. So we'll see how that goes. The last thing I wanted to talk about really quickly, and Fantrax Flukes at Fantrax Fluke brings this up. Basically, he's asking, with a new left back and Eriksen arrival imminent, which player will take the majority of United's set pieces this season? And I think the larger question here that I would love to cover real quick, if you guys are willing, is just what to make of United this year. Like what to make of Bruno. Hint, hint. He features pretty heavily in my article, players whose fantasy situations have worsened. But what to make of Eriksen with his arrival, what to make of Ronaldo with his discontentment. There's a lot going on there. You know, Sancho, Ryan, you mentioned him. He's still there, and it's just turning out to, or looking like it's going to be a mess. but maybe Ten Hag can do something with this. I don't know. It's really confusing at the moment. Toddy, why don't we come back to you first? Any thoughts on the United situation?
I'm probably not touching anyone from United. The only player I am mildly interested in is Sancho, mid round 3 or later. Anyone else I'm not touching, and mostly it's because I think this Erik Ten Hag appointment is just a plaster on a rotting corpse. Yeah, I didn't want to say corpse, but I couldn't say anything else. It's just we can see from the transfers they are taking number 10 who is really great at set pieces just because they can. When they have Bruno, they signed Ronaldo last season just because City supposedly wanted him. They're looking at Frankie de Jong because he used to play with Erik Ten Hag. Obviously, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but there's no system in what they're doing in the transfer market. If Ronaldo is there, it will just limit Ten Hag's possibilities so much that essentially we're looking at whether Ten Hag can survive the season and start anew when Ronaldo leaves next season. If Ronaldo is gone, okay, there's a clean slate, but will they work without a goal scorer? Will they have to sign one at the end of August in a market that is already wrapped up most of its premium assets in June? Will they then go for the highest shirt sale guy available in Dybala or someone like that?
I was just thinking Dybala or Lewandowski.
Or, I mean, Lewandowski would be great, but he would just represent a short-term solution. Whereas I think if Ten Hag is the manager or the person that he's touted to be, then he would rather play a season with rotating Bruno as a false nine, Elanga playing Rashford there, trying Sancho there, and trying out his tactics and his availability. He'd rather do that than get a Paulo Dybala on 300,000 a week on a free transfer on the 30th of August.
Yeah,
because that is opposite what I meant. Like if you have a look at teams that are building well, like Arsenal and Liverpool, they've done most of their transfers before the players came back from their break. Like, I know it's talking about the club that I like, but imagine the calmness and the ability to build when the players show up on the first day of training after the summer break and the roster is set. And they know that these are the guys we're going to compete with. These are the guys we're going to go into the season with. They know each position who has their spot. They know who is fighting for a spot. They know what they expect from each other, and they know that from day one when they go back to training. Whereas you'll see teams that are less consciously building, like United, will start panicking and adding players after game week 2 or 3, and with no preseason, no concept of the tactics, possibly players who do not fit the system just because they can or just because they're panicking. and it will result in an ultimately unsuccessful season again.
Yeah, that's my concern, Ryan. I know you're not going to be drafting any United players, but any
No.
insight into this?
Yeah, contractually obligated to refrain. No, if I wasn't, I would actually be quasi tempted by someone like Rashford.
Yeah.
Especially if Ronaldo leaves, you got to think that slot's open, and be damned if I'll, trust Martial. So if you're looking at Rashford's ADP, I think it's somewhere around like 9th round.
Yeah.
So I mean, the risk reward is pretty great there. So he'd be somebody I'd think about. Really kind of late, that 9th, 10th round area, if he continues to slip there. And Alonga showed some flashes of brilliance, and I think he's probably around a little bit later than that. So yeah, it's just trying to look for a few players that whose value is probably a little bit undervalued. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't see United clicking this season. I think, especially with a systems coach like Ten Hag, it's going to take some time, and they're not going to hit the ground running. So it's going to continue to be a shit show, and I'm here for it.
Nice. All right, let's wrap it up, boys. We're heading on 2 hours here, and we want to let Toddy get to bed. Listeners, if we didn't get to your questions, I'm so sorry. But many of them are actually answered in the draft kit. To go ahead and send you back that way. Obviously we wish we could have gotten to all of them, but for things like World Cup impact on players, we've got an article on that. 5 substitutions, how's that going to impact things? We've got an article on that. A lot of the promoted players and what to expect from them, there's an article on that. So check it out. We really do think it's really, really solid material and solid content. We've put a lot of damn work into it, and we're really proud of it. And I have to say, I've just been humbled and amazed by the support the community's already shown to an independent fantasy football site. We love this community, and you are the reason we write. You are the reason we do this. You're the reason we have the site. You're the reason we do the pod. So just thank you. Everything's been amazing, and thank you for another season here supporting us and coming out for us the way you guys do. So, Toddy, let's kick it back to you real quick. Final thoughts for the listeners.
Buy the draft kit and the
subtle.
If you've lasted this long,
the ultimate pass, we will have much more value, if it's even possible, for the ultimate pass, for the week to week articles and week to week stuff than we did last season, which was great even last season. Other than that, send us your questions on Twitter, tag the Draft Society in all of your rankings, draft, pre-draft or post-draft trades, and start sending us your draft boards.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Love to weigh in on those. Absolutely. All right, Ryan, final thoughts.
Yeah, similar. I mean, there's I think there's a bit of misunderstanding of the draft kit. It's not a July 1st everything drops, as you mentioned, Joe. It's a trickle of articles coming out every single day. So I hope you weren't expecting everything to be available July 1st. So if you didn't buy it yet, a lot of the good stuff is still to come. So it will all be out most likely before your draft. So check it out. And looking forward to the drafts. And yeah, as Toddy said, feel free to reach out, and looking forward to seeing these draft boards and seeing how you guys do. But it's good to be back.
Yeah, hell yeah. Last thing I will say is, again, this community is amazing. You guys are fantastic. And that being said, if you need to get into a league, get at us. Let us know. And we will send out the call to anybody who is starting up a league, anybody who wants to start up a league, anybody who's got somebody who's dropping out of one of their leagues. We'll try to get you into a league. So if you are curious about this game, or your home league has collapsed like mine did a few years ago, let us know. We're happy to try to help get you into a league. All that being said, thank you for listening. I know it's been a long one, but it's our first one back after a few weeks off, so we're hyped. Listeners, you're the best. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Key Pass Collective. Thanks to everyone out there again. Cheers.